Never a doubt. Never.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And there was never, ever, ever a doubt that the Detroit Tigers were going to win that ball game on Tuesday afternoon. Sure. I don't really know what just happened, but sure. A 5-3 victory for the Motor City Kitties over the Pittsburgh Pirates on, like I said, Tuesday afternoon. I don't even know. I don't really know what just happened. I really don't. That was, can I say hilarious? Like, that was objectively funny, I feel like. I got a kick out of it. It ends the losing skid. Look, I mean, in all seriousness, we talked about going into the year, you cannot let losses pile up. That is a huge no-no over the course of a very long baseball season. You cannot afford to have, I don't care what month it is, you cannot afford to have your 9-game losing streak, your 7-game losing streak, lose back-to-back series, right? Get swept back to, like, you cannot afford to let losses pile up. And as ridiculous and little league-esque and kind of a circus as the ninth inning may have been, they don't ask how, they ask how many, baby. And the Tigers walked away with a win, stopped the losing streak, and now are going to head in to Thursday's game against the Minnesota Twins at home with a 7-4 record. And we will gladly take that. All right. Absolutely gladly. Now, let's talk about what went right and what went wrong. I want to start. I feel like this has been unintentional, and I think I'm just going to turn it into intentional from here on out. When we talk about a win, we're probably going to lead with what went right. And when we talk about a loss, we'll lead with what went wrong. I think that just kind of makes sense. We'll talk about both, obviously, throughout the course of every episode, but I think that kind of makes sense. So in terms of what went right in this ball game, I think the biggest thing that went right was the defense, to be honest. Stellar defensive performance by the Detroit Tigers on Tuesday afternoon. Colt Keith was absolutely phenomenal. Cody Stavenhagen of The Athletic put out some numbers just about Colt Keith's defense so far this season and how he's been a plus defender in multiple stats, OAA, defensive run saved, wherever you like to use. He's a plus defender in both of those, and eye test really backs that up. He has looked really solid. He's athletic. He's a big second baseman, but he's an athletic dude. And the only thing that really, if we want to get super nitpicky, the only thing that I think I would like to see him improve on over the course of the year is genuinely just getting the ball out of his glove quicker. He's been a little bit slow on some turns or just flips in general, even if they're not turns. And I feel like that's something that will probably just come with time and repetition and practice and whatnot. But that is really the only hiccup in his defense so far. But outside of that, he's been great. And he made a really good play early in the game. He made a really nice play in the ninth inning as well, turned a double play by himself. Just really, really solid defense. Javi Baez didn't do anything offensively, not worth the contract, et cetera, all the things I have to say before I give Javi a compliment literally ever, or else people freak out at me. But he made a really, really good defensive play in this game and has been really solid defensively all year. Now, obviously, you can be incredible defensively. If you have an OPS in the 300 or 400s, it's not going to be worth it. I don't care if you're one of the greatest defensive shortstops ever. Like that's just not going to justify the means. So in this game, he made a couple of nice defensive plays. The bat, obviously, still a massive issue. He hit a hanging curveball in this game that he turned on, good timing, everything, and it was just a lazy routine fly ball to left field. I don't know. I don't know where we go from here with him at the plate. But we're talking about what went right, and he made a good defensive play in this ball game. Matt Vierling, 2 plays where he covered a lot of ground and made a really nice catch. The first one I actually thought was kind of a bad route, not to be like a Debbie Downer, but then moving on to the positive so that I'm not a Debbie Downer. The second one I thought was absolutely fantastic. The one moving to his right, if you're watching TV, moving to his left, or moving to the left rather. I think that play was absolutely stellar, and he made a few really, really good defensive plays in center field. And, that's something that I kind of ragged on him for last year. Was like I said that he was a solid third baseman defensively. He was I genuinely thought a plus defender at corner outfield, but I thought he really struggled in center. And so if you can get valuable center field defense out of him, if Parker ends up being a platoon hitter for a plethora of reasons, that's going to be rather valuable. So good to see him have a really nice day in center. Riley Green, fantastic play. Was that a home run? I don't know. Regardless, great play. He said he didn't know where the wall was. Why does everything he do have to look terrifying? Like his body's like flailing all over he stresses me out, but really, really nice play as well. Just a great day as a whole for the defense. And the Tigers have graded out well defensively just all year so far, which is a great sign. They've been, according to whatever analytics you look at, OAA really likes them so far. But there's a few different stats that say that the Tigers have been one of the better defensive teams in ball here, albeit again 11 games into the season. But I think that this game specifically was kind of one of the biggest reasons they stayed around, right? I mean, obviously the complete implosion by Bednar, which we'll talk about here in a second, is the reason that they were able to win. But I think that they kept it close because of really good defense. I think that really kind of was maybe the biggest factor in this game, which is something that doesn't really get talked about as much as obviously pitching and hitting, because you need hitting to win. And the Tigers, we're going to talk about the first 8 innings here in a second. Not my favorite brand of baseball, but in the 9th inning, showed some signs of life, scored some runs. Sure. Sure. Obviously, Bednar, again, was awful. And I hope that he figures it out. I hope that he finds it, because that was really, really brutal. But look, you have to let pitchers beat themselves. We talked a lot about just already this season, nonetheless, the last 2 years, guys who have thrown more balls than strikes in an outing, and the Tigers still can't muster any runs and whatnot. You have to take advantage of pitchers that are beating themselves. And thank goodness the Tigers did take advantage. Obviously, a ball that kind of a little league play that bounced out of play as well certainly helps a little bit. But all in all, they were putting the ball in play when it was in the zone. They were getting hits on balls in the zone. They got some BABIP luck finally, which I feel like they haven't had really all season as well. Finally, it's just, Kevin Malone in the office. It's just nice to win one. So it's just nice to be on the lucky side of things for what feels like the first time this season. Probably not true given how bad the offense is and the fact that we're still 3 games over 500, but offensively, strictly, really nice to just see the ball find some grass and for the Tigers to actually take advantage of a complete just disaster class pitching performance by an opponent on the mound. I hope he figures it out, because he's been really good the last few years. But good on the Tigers for not making a, loading the bases and then not scoring. And then, we had to come on here and talk about how they just couldn't finish the job. So we'll take a win, I guess, is my overlying point. We have to move on. I'm just rambling at this point, but we will just take a win. It's just nice to see, to have this be the result, given how the first 8 innings went. Let's talk about what went wrong in this ball game. We will do that right after this. Going to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Prize Picks. Spring training is over and baseball's season is officially underway, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond to your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, You can take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. You can also get in on all the playoff action less than a week away now in basketball season and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during basketball's postseason. Again, playoffs start April 20th, but the play-in round starts April 16th, so less than a week away. You can get on so much action over at Prize Picks. Well, obviously, we just talked about basketball season, but baseball season here underway. Really fun to look at it with pitchers. I can assure you, Martin Perez, if you took more for him and his strikeout total, you probably made out decently well on Tuesday. We'll talk about that here, obviously, a little more in depth in a second, but so much fun over at Prize Picks. So download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow on an off day, having our first true off day episode. Had some rainouts, obviously, so far already. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever streaming 24/7 sports channel. You can check it out on YouTube or for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Talking about the Tigers' 5-3 victory over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Very unlikely win for the Cats. Let's talk about what went wrong in this game. We've talked about what kind of went right. I feel like this is maybe a weird game where there's maybe more that went wrong than went right, but it's also a win. There's actually, I think the category with the most stuff in it is just stuff. Things that weren't necessarily awful, but weren't fantastic either. I think that's probably the longest category. But I actually want to start off what went wrong with Fanatics. Riley Green's pants just completely rip on the slide home in the ninth inning. I don't mean, oh, there was a little tear and it was kind of funny. I mean, his entire right leg was exposed. Like the entire right leg was, I don't know how we're letting this happen. The back of the jerseys look horrendous. They look like you made it, at home yourself. Actually, that's disrespectful to you. You probably do a better job. They look terrible. And now we have pants just ripping. Looks like wet t-shirt contests when it rains. It's just a complete disaster. And I'm not sure what we're doing. So I want to start off with that, actually. On the field, though, what went wrong was the Tigers' offense in the first 8 innings. Boo, 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 boo. That was absolutely awful. That is terrible. It is the exact thing that I begged not to happen 24 hours ago on yesterday's show. Thank goodness they walked away with a win, or else I don't know what I even would have said. I guess we'll never know. Thank goodness, because I don't even want to think about that reality, that version of reality that exists out there in the universe where I have to come on here and talk about just getting diced by Martin Perez. 8 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 7 strikeouts. Last year, this dude had a 4.45 ERA. He was in the 5th percentile in K rate. That's 5th. As in bottom 5% in the league. He was in the 2nd percentile in whiff rate, as in bottom 2% of the league. 98% of pitchers got more swings and misses last year than Martin Perez. And in this game, he had 7 strikeouts, 10 whiffs, and pitched 8 innings. Absolutely wild stuff. He threw about 50, maybe 80, maybe 215 fastballs. They were cutters and sinkers up and into righties, and not a soul on your Detroit Tigers swung at it all game. A lot of them argued about whether it was a ball or a strike. Most of them were actually strikes. hilariously enough, all game. All game. And that's, he didn't just throw as much as I just said he did. He obviously didn't just throw 100 straight cutters up and in, but it was constant, and we did nothing. This team did absolutely nothing with it the entire ball game. And then the sinkers low and the changeup low, and he threw a ton of curveballs out of nowhere, which just completely threw our lineup for a loop. Looked like they had never seen a curveball before. Absolute blender. He dismantled this team for 8 innings. I thought he mixed his pitches pretty well. Like, I don't think that this was, just completely, wow, he's just lobbing them up there down the middle and the team couldn't do anything, right? I thought he mixed his pitches pretty well. His command was pretty solid, but he threw plenty of hittable fastballs, being cutter and sinkers, over the heart of the plate in this ball game, and the Tigers did nothing. They did not a dang thing with them all game. We've been ragging on Torque all year for like his timing on his fastballs just being a complete disaster. But this game, it was everybody. Hit fastballs that are 91 over the heart of the plate. And his team just didn't today and hasn't all season. And it's mind-boggling to me. Absolutely mind-boggling. So what went wrong? Really, the only thing that went objectively just 100% wrong was the offense in the first 8 innings. They scored again early in the first and then got shut out the rest of the game until the 9th inning. Let's talk about stuff. There's still plenty of things to talk about in this ball game, just maybe things that didn't necessarily go super right or super wrong. I thought Casey Mize was pretty solid. I actually wanted to split this up into different, how do I word this? I wanted to put part of Casey Mize's performance in what went good and what went well and part in what didn't go well. But I felt like that was too confusing to follow, to have, half of like his fastball looked good and his velo looked good, but the command on these pitches looked bad. And I didn't want to split it up like that. So I'm just putting it all into stuff here at the end instead. 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and 1 home run against. The velo was absolutely fantastic. Great sign. His fastball averaged 96.7 miles an hour. And when the splitter and slider were commanded well, they were decently effective too. But in all caps, however, his glove side command was absolutely all over the place. It was consistently inconsistent, really. Anything he threw on the left half of the plate, didn't matter if it was a righty up, where that's an outside pitch, or a lefty up, where that's an inside pitch. He was all over the place, and he was, I don't know if it's overthrowing necessarily, but just yanking everything way to the left when he was trying to get on that left side of the plate. Fastballs, he did it with. Sliders, he did it a boatload with. Splitters a couple of times. Everything he tried to throw to the glove side was just yanked way outside. He also hung a couple of sliders, one specifically to Brian Hayes, who is just a joy to watch, by the way. Like, he's the opponent in this game, obviously rooting against him for a 2-game set, but just he made a great play in this game to probably save a couple of runs in the first inning there as well. Just he is a joy to watch. He is really, really spectacular at third base. And if he can even hit remotely well, he's going to be one of the better third basemen in baseball for a long time. Anyway, that command to the glove side, he really struggled with. That all being said, I think that this was another promising start. It's still his second start back after 2 years of not pitching. And I think the stuff is really promising. I think I just need to see more command and just continue to stretch him out through 83, I want to say, pitches in this ball game, 86, somewhere around there. Yeah, 83 pitches, 55 strikes. So not a bad day at the office. Still obviously a lot to work on, but he's getting back in the routine, into the groove. And I kind of am expecting him to hit his stride here as he gets more and more opportunities throughout the year. Okay, got a few more things to talk about, and then I'll let you get on with your Wednesday. We'll get into all of that right after this. Going to talk to y'all today about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in, as always, talking about this 5-3 victory for your Detroit Tigers in a very unlikely fashion. Some other stuff in this game I want to point out. Jason Foley, he will give up contact at some point, right? This is not a huge swing and miss guy. And if you can get under that sinker and just, kind of flick your wrists a little bit and pop that thing out to center field, which happened a couple of times in this ball game, that is going to happen inevitably, which is why I'm very curious in how they navigate those high leverage situations, because he's still not a huge swing and miss guy, even though the stuff looks good and he has been getting more than we are used to in the past. So something we've talked about, and I'm very interested in how really just his season as a whole shapes out, but his usage especially because of that. But still is absolute nails, still is the highest leverage reliever on this team, still should be getting the save opportunities for the foreseeable future until proven otherwise. And the flip side of that comment is my next point here, which is Alex Lang, immediate walk out of the bullpen. Rest of the inning, I didn't even think was that great. That is the only base runner he allowed, and he did get out of it, but still, not efficient, throwing a lot of pitches, kind of sporadic with the command. The thing that I want everyone to really pay attention to with Alex Lang isn't even necessarily what he's doing on the mound. I think everybody is pretty well aware, like when he throws strikes, he's really good. And when he doesn't throw strikes, he's not. And he has a trouble throwing strikes. I want everyone to pay attention to when he is used. Notice the Alex Lang usage. This was in the 7th inning of a game where the Tigers were down 2 runs and the offense was completely dead and buried. Now, they turned into a zombie and came back to life and somehow won this baseball game. I'm still not really sure how, but that is the situation that Alex Lang just pitched in. Down 2 with no offense in the 7th. And I think that is going to be the most telling thing about the next weeks and months to come with Alex Lang standing on the team, is going to be when he is used. And I think that we kind of saw a glimpse of that a little bit in this one. Very interested going forward the rest of April. If he improves, does he get a little bit longer of a leash or get some more high leverage? Very, very intrigued by that. So just wanted to point that out. Edward Olivares, absolute monster start to the season. Fantastic. Let me pull up his numbers here, but he's been crushing the ball all year. And obviously in this ball game had 2 home runs. And if it wasn't for the Vierling amazing play in left field, would have had a double or a triple as well. Has an OPS well over 1,000 with 3 home runs on the season. He has just been absolutely mashing, and just wanted to give him his flowers because he's got a really nice swing too. Like that's a really pretty swing when he gets a hold of it. So yeah, man, the Pirates' hot start continues. They always do this, I feel like, and we'll see what happens. They do, however, need to figure out the 9th inning because David Bednar was not good whatsoever. Has really struggled this whole season so far. It's been really unfortunate to see, given how good he has been for them the last 2 years specifically. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. I think that's it. I agreed with the umpire call. There's no way Urshela should have been at third base there. Agree with sending him back to second. Had some people ask me about that. They after the review made the right call. Kerry Carpenter's absolute blooper with the infield in to get an RBI. Well, again, we'll take it. Well, I'm not going to be picky about how we score runs. Just find a way. And that is what teams that want to try and be competitive do. You can't rack up losses. You have to find a way. And as hilarious as it may have been, as ridiculous as it may have been, as the as much as it's probably more the fault of the opposing pitcher than anything else, I do not care. Tigers win a ball game. That's all that matters. And we'll gladly take it. Huge weight lifted off of all of our shoulders. Get to talk about a win because it was looking like for 8.5 innings that it was, or 8 innings rather, that it was going to be not a fun episode again. So I'm glad. 7-4 heading into the off day. We have an off day today as you're listening to this. We'll do our full preview of the weekend on tomorrow's episode, obviously, but this is a really, really, really huge next 8 games. The first 4 games specifically are probably your biggest games of the season. I don't know if that's fair to say, if that's a huge overreaction because it is the middle of April. Up to this point, I mean, your first time, I guess that's not your first time. You started off the season with the White Sox, but you're playing the Twins, reigning AL Central champs. You're at home. This is the team. You beat them more than you lost to them last year. You have to take advantage of home field, and you have to walk out of here with at least a split, I would say, if not a series win, if you want to kind of reinstill some optimism into the fan base. Now, obviously, if you get rinsed, right, it's the middle of April. The season is not like over, but this is as important of a series as you can have in the middle of April, well, depending on how important that you think that is. So, and then after that, you have 4 against the Rangers, who are obviously the reigning World Series champs. They got some dudes that can rake. They have a lot of good hitters. So, your next 8 games, though, all at home. You have to take advantage. You have not played nearly well enough at home over the last really 3 years, but the last 2 years especially just have not been nearly good enough at home. And you're going up against a division rival for 4 games that also is easily your biggest threat to taking the division, I think, as far as preseason consensus went. Obviously, the Guardians are off to a really good start this year. But preseason, 2 weeks ago, the conversation was Twins and Tigers. So take advantage, get some wins. Rotation's going to reset. You're going to have Scooble in game 1. You have an opportunity here. Again, we'll preview it a little bit more in depth tomorrow. All right. But glad to be going into the off day with a win. Glad to not be coming home on a 4-game losing streak. 7-4 going into this series. I think if you would have asked most of us if we would have taken 7-4 going into the April 11th game against the Twins, most of us would have taken that and ran. So at the end of the day, the offense has been brutal. We need to see huge strides in the right direction with it, but a win is a win, and we're just going to take it and enjoy the off day. All right. Not an off day for the show, however. We will be back tomorrow. Appreciate you all so much for tuning in as always. Yeah. Shout out to the everydayers. I'll catch you all then, baby. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. And I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.